Hi, I'm Krishona Martinson. I'm the Equine Extension Specialist here at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Animal Science.
Hey everyone, this is Amanda Greft. I am a new master's student with the Department of Animal Science, working under the direction of Dr. Krishona Martinson.
Many horse owners struggle with trying to figure out when to initiate grazing. A lot of people want to rely on the calendar year, but as we all know, being Minnesotans, that the calendar isn't always as accurate. Sometimes spring arrives in April, sometimes spring arrives in June. So the most important thing, and what we're going to demonstrate today, is that you really need to rely on your forage height in your pasture to determine when you start and when you stop grazing. So the way to determine when it's time to start grazing is when your cool season grass pasture on averages reaches 6 to 8 inches tall. And you can see here Amanda is walking around measuring. Now your pasture probably isn't going to be completely uniform. You're going to want to walk around, take multiple heights of your pasture, and again, it's the average, 6 to 8 inches tall. That is when we want to start grazing. So ideally you would use a ruler, but maybe you don't have a ruler handy. Another really convenient thing to use is your average water bottle. Most water bottles are about 8 to 10 inches tall. So if you set that down in your pasture, and on average the grass is as high or higher than the water bottle, you know that it's at least 6 to 8 inches tall and you can start grazing. So you're probably wondering, why do we start grazing when the grass is 6 to 8 inches tall? Well, there's two main reasons. One is for the health of the pasture, and the other is for the health of the horse. Grasses need leaf area to intercept sunlight to make photosynthesis to have the plant grow. If you are continually grazing the grass down, the grass has to rely on its roots, the stored carbohydrates in the roots, to regrow. And if you have that constant removal, the plants will essentially die off, and that's how you get bare spots in your pasture. If you leave the plants with this leaf material, they are able to capture photosynthesis, store some in their roots, and have a strong plant that will last throughout the life of your pasture. We also know that the vast majority of the non-structural carbohydrates that so many horse owners are concerned about are kept in the bottom 2 to 3 inches of that plant. That way, if we let the plant get a little bit taller, a little bit more mature, we have less carbohydrates and more fiber. Pastures can meet most of the energy requirements of most of the different classes of horses. So letting the pasture get a little bit more mature will help us ensure that the grasses aren't too high in carbohydrates, but yet have plenty of nutrients to meet that horse's requirement. So in the spring, after your grasses have reached 6 to 8 inches tall, you can't just simply open the gates and say, good luck horses. What you want to do is start grazing in increments of 15 minutes. So day one is 15 minutes, and then we add 15 minutes each day thereafter until we reach about 5 hours. So for example, day one is 15 minutes, and I realize you're going to spend more time chasing the horses around than they actually spend grazing, but it's so important to slowly acclimate them so that you don't have digestive upsets such as colic and laminitis and other problems that occur when horses switch feedstuffs too quickly. So now that we've talked about when to initiate grazing, we also need to talk about when do we pull the horses off a specific pasture. Unfortunately, horses do not graze the pasture completely even. They're going to graze closer to the ground, the grasses and the species that they like more, and they aren't going to graze as close the species that they don't like as much, species with less palatability or less preference. So one thing you want to do is, because that leaf area is so important for the production of photosynthesis, you always want to make sure that you leave 3 to 4 inches of growth that grass can recover. Also, again, we know that the bottom part of the plant has a lot of the carbohydrates. So after your horses have grazed an area, you need to walk with your measuring stick, and when on average the grasses are 3 to 4 inches tall, we know we want to stop grazing. Now again, you may not have a ruler handy, so if you have the same water bottle that we use to initiate grazing, you can use that but lay it on its side. Most water bottles are about 3 to 4 inches tall. And again, when the grasses are about even with that water bottle, we know it's time to rotate the horses off that pasture. But if you look at this small area here, you can see that the horses did not eat it uniformly. There are some areas of taller forage, kind of some weedy areas that they won't graze. So on average though, we would say that this area, if this was our entire pasture, that it would definitely be time to rotate the horses off. So the take-home message is to really rely on the grass height and not the calendar date. We want to initiate grazing when the cool season grasses or legumes are 6 to 8 inches tall. We want to allow the horses to graze until on average, knowing that they do not graze uniformly, down to on average 3 to 4 inches. We then can pull the horses off that pasture and hopefully there's another pasture that is ready to graze. During that time of rest and regrowth, it's important to drag to help disperse the manure and to do other things associated with pasture management, such as fertilizing and also maybe spraying for weeds if necessary. Once those grasses have grown back to 6 to 8 inches tall, we can start grazing again, keeping in mind that in early spring, when the horses are coming off of winter, it's really important to initiate grazing slowly in 15-minute increments.